We got two monster games on this Friday. UND Minnesota hockey, and it's number 1 and number 2 in high school football in North Dakota. Hot Mike begins now.
Hot Mike with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mike.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something.
Coach Dom Izzo, WDAY in Fargo, North Dakota. Can you give me a layup or something?
Hot Mike. Presented by Northwestern Mutual.
That program is second to none.
On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo.
Good Friday morning. Welcome to the We're Getting Out of Here in Style edition of Hot Mike on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV. Good morning, everybody in Sioux Falls, KNBN in Rapid City, and Inforum.com. It is the 17th day of October. We're 2 weeks out from Halloween. Feeling like it outside. Going to be a great day. We're set for what's going to be a dynamite Football Friday on tap. That's not it, though. I mean, we previewed it yesterday. Got Gophers, Huskers tonight. We've got number 1, number 2 in high school football tonight. Horace Davies playing. There's a little hockey game evidently going on in Grand Forks that people are interested in UND, Minnesota. So you got everything you want. And a couple of baseball games as well on tap, including one that could send one team to the World Series, which we'll get to that coming up in all due time. So we're on the doorstep of a fantastic weekend. Obviously, with the NFL, the Vikings are back on the field. As we played the sound yesterday, it becomes all more readily apparent it's going to be Carson Wentz again starting for the Vikings on Sunday. We'll get to our NFL picks coming up before we wrap up the show on a busy Friday. We got a plane to catch. We're heading to Terre Haute, Indiana. First time in 3 years, the Bison will play a football game in the state of Indiana. This is their 7th all-time trip to Indiana State, and a matchup against the Sycamores with Kurt Mallory's team coming in at 2-4. We'll get to that. You'll hear from one of the Bison players, likely to see the field quite a bit on Saturday, coming up in just a little bit. So a lot to unpack this morning. We're going to start, though, with some hoops because, we haven't got enough going on. Hockey season's going. We're wrapping up baseball. We're in the midst of football. Why wouldn't basketball join the fray? Because for the first time this year, the NCAA has now allowed exhibition games, multiple exhibition games to be played for men's basketball teams and women's basketball teams. Over the past, I'd say 10 years, we've had the rise of these secret scrimmages pop up where, like last year, I think the Bison scrimmage Drake or Creighton. They would go and under the cover of darkness, and you'd find out after the fact, the Bison were in like Wichita and they played Creighton against Greg McDermott's team. Okay, well, the NCAA finally said, okay, enough of that, because reporters would be scrounging for any sort of information about what's going on with their basketball teams, this one included. Like, what? Okay, really? So now the NCAA is allowed, you could play 2 exhibition games. And as we talked about over the summer, it became official that the Bison were going to scrimmage the University of Minnesota. Well, there's a lot of appeal to that. Okay, let's go. Considering that the Bison and Gophers have not played against one another in any sort of competition in 13 years. 2012 was the last time North Dakota State and Minnesota played basketball against one another. So that was the backdrop for last night at the barn at Williams Arena. The Bison men, Dave Richmond taking the court with 9 new players last night. An amalgamation of different lineups. Again, I'm not sure how much we can draw from who was out there, but there's some guys that can play, including that guy, Travion Carson. You're going to hear his name quite a bit. Young man from Des Moines Area Community College was good last night. Rebound put back by the sophomore, Trayson Anderson, the big man out of Lincoln, scores, gave the Bison an early 2-point lead. Carson Smith, who redshirted last year, drills a 3, put the Bison up 5.5 minutes into the game. Emil Skuda, the transfer from Sacramento State. He started his career at Central Michigan. This is a nice contact play and the foul. At that point, Bison were up by 3. Minnesota, though, got its act together. They've got, obviously, a new roster as well. Transfer Cade Tyson from North Carolina for Nico Medved was unstoppable last night. Here's another new Bison. This is Markai Strickland from Western Michigan. Drives and scores. This is a guy who's going to play a lot, folks. Gets it to a 4-point game. There's another Carson layup and score. Got it to 6. Max Marley got into the mix as well. Little finish there. Made it an 8-point Gopher lead. Then Minnesota went crazy. This drive and finish put them up by 10 from Grayson Grove out of Alexandria, Minnesota. Isaac Azuma, the outstanding player out of Cherry, drives and scores. He had 10 last night. Gophers got up by as many as 15. Damari Wheeler-Thomas, great to see him back on the floor after redshirting all of last year. Cut the Gopher lead to 11. But Tyson was possessed last night. He made 9 of 13 from the field, 6 of 9 from three-point range. This is one of his more easier baskets last night. The tip put the Gopher lead up to 19. They got up by as many as 23 as 1 point. Carson, though, was a bright spot for the Bison. This is a young man who the Bison found on the junior college ranks when actually they were looking at Max Marley. They found Travion Carson. There's the finish from Tyson, who had a game-high 28 last night. That put Minnesota up by 23. One more Carson three for good measure. He knocked out a couple last night. He led the Bison with 14 points, but there's another Tyson corner three. Gophers go on. They cruise over NDSU 80-54, the final. Tyson leading scorer with 28. Travion Carson leads North Dakota State with 14. Markai Strickland was the next high scorer with 9. Damari and Max Marley each had 7. But this is a game where Dave played a ton of guys. Nobody got more than 23 minutes last night. So that's, again, when you're trying to figure out rotations and figure out who's going to get out there and play, that's what last night was for, and a week from yesterday will be for. The Bison will be back on the floor next Thursday night against MSU Moorhead, a game we'll have for you here on Extra next Thursday night, which I'm sure will have a great crowd. Jason Kemp will make his debut as head coach of the Dragons, former Gopher assistant, former Bison assistant. It'll be a really fun night next Thursday. Here are some of the stat lines, though, from last night. Carson, I think, was the best player. He's going to start. Markai Strickland scored 9 points in 18 minutes. He's going to start. He had 5 rebounds as well. Tay Smith started last night. He's the transfer from Lenore-Rhine in his 5th year of college basketball. He's played a ton. He started. He had 19 minutes, scored 3 points. Noah Feddersen, you did not see in our highlight reel, only had 2 points in 22 minutes. Now, again, Dave, we've talked about Noah quite a bit in the preseason when Dave was in studio. We had Noah on at Summit League Media Day. That's a player they're counting on quite a bit to ascend. This is his 3rd year in the program to really take off. Was pretty quiet last night. Andy Stefanowicz started as well. Only took a couple shots, had a couple of assists, did not score. You saw what Damari did. Again, he provides just a different energy out there. And again, he's a 4th-year player. He's in his 3rd year actually playing, but he's been with the program for 4 years. As you remember, he redshirted last year. He had 7. Max Marley had 7. You saw Scuta's contact. Carson Smith 3. The true freshman Riley Massey got in 14 minutes. Scored a couple points. Trayson Anderson you saw score as well. It's too early to start making any long-range projections. I'm more interested in who's going to play and who's not. Dom Clay, another freshman, played 5 minutes. Riley Saunders only played a couple of minutes. If I was a betting man, without talking to Dave yet, I'd say those last 2 names are likely red shirts. Those guys are freshmen. But again, in this day and age, Dave's not going to have a 12-man rotation. That's just not going to happen. He's going to figure out to get to 9. Just a matter of the non-conference of what those 9 are going to be. If I was a betting man, I'd say it's Carson, Strickland, Smith, Feddersen, Stefanowicz, Wheeler-Thomas, Marley, Scuda, and then you've got, I would imagine Trayson Anderson is going to get some run just because the Bison don't have a ton of size. And then it's between Carson Smith and Riley Massey probably for that last spot. And that's a total uneducated guess. I'm sure I get a text message about it saying I'm completely off base, but that's at least seeing from the first game. They've got some athleticism. They are not going to shoot the three like they did last year. Let's just get that out there right now. They were one of the best shooting three-point teams in the country last season. Last night they were 5 of 24. I think again, it's not going to carry over year to year with Bison men's basketball. It's different from football, where that culture, that development, how they play is just going to be similar. Basketball, when you're changing 9 guys every year, you can't. And look, Medved had the same deal with Minnesota. There were 4, 5, 6 guys that played last night. They're all transfers. You saw B.J. Omot got a little bit of run, former UND star. He played 13 minutes last night, only scored 1 point for the Gophers. But Medved's doing through the same thing for the Gophs. But there you go, game 1. And again, we'll see them on Thursday night against the Dragons coming up at the Shields Center. Also last night, we got everything going on. We had another day of baseball. Today might be it. The last day we have 2 baseball games in the same day. We had Game 4 of the ALCS in Seattle and Game 3 of the NLCS going on in Los Angeles, where the Dodgers had dominated the Brewers for the first 2 games, won the first 2 games on the road, only allowing 2 runs to Milwaukee. Whenever the Brewers score, we got to show it because they did it here on this base hit off Tyler Glasnow in the second inning. So they're thinking, all right, maybe the floodgates are going to open as Jake Bauers delivers to tie the game at 1. Mizorowski had Ohtani. He looks completely fooled right now. Like, Ohtani is lost at the plate. Mizorowski was great last night. Here he gives up this one to Tommy Edman, who I'll just remind everybody that Edman was the League Championship Series MVP last year. Delivers this base hit. The Dodgers get the go-ahead run on a Will Smith coming around to score to make it 2-1. Then you can't do this. When you're trouble scoring runs, you can't make it easy on the Dodgers. That ball is thrown away. Freddie Freeman will come in to score. I mean, I get Uribe trying to get the guy, but you've got to make an accurate throw there, especially when you got a runner at third. You can't give LA any runs. Makes it a 3-1. Sasaki is their closer. There he gets the final out. The Dodgers win it again, 3-1, hold the Brewers again to 1 run. They're up 3-0. Meanwhile, in Seattle, the Blue Jays, after winning Game 3, much like on Game 3, they fall behind. Josh Naylor hits a home run. You remember Julio Rodriguez did the same thing in Game 3. And then the Blue Jay bats woke up after that, down 1-0. This home run from Andres Jimenez makes it a 2-1 Toronto lead. Then somebody named Max Scherzer took over. Haven't seen Scherzer pitch in like 3 years. Why can't the Mets find players like him? Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Oh, man. Opposite field tank job there. The Blue Jays do it again. They win it 8-2 over Seattle and now have even the best of 7 at 2 apiece, making it a best of 3. For all those Mariner fans who were just clamoring like, here we go, we're going to have a great party, Toronto has crushed them in back-to-back games. So here we go. We've got Game 5 this afternoon, Blue Jays and Mariners in Seattle. No one can clinch today. That series is going back to Toronto for a Game 6, which will be on Sunday night. Meanwhile, the Dodgers have done something historic here. They have completely shut down Milwaukee, allowing the Brewers 3 runs in 3 games. Again, the Dodger pitching has been outstanding in this entire series. Glasnow, 8 strikeouts, 5 2/3 last night. So now the Brewers have to win tonight, and it looks like, I believe, is Ohtani pitching tonight against your boys?
Yeah, he's pitching, but one thing on this series, and TBS alluded to it yesterday, the Dodgers can save their All-Stars till June and still be fine, which is what they did. They were injured all year.
They were.
And it also goes to show that when the Dodgers have a $500 million payroll, apparently you can buy championships, and this is why baseball needs a salary cap and a lockout's going in 27, because this, honestly, I watched the first game, I was like, oh, we have a shot. And then after that, I'm like, it's over. It's like the pitching is just unbelievable. You can save these guys.
Correct. And that's, we talked about at the end of the show yesterday that Jeff Passan wrote about it. I will say this. Mizorowski gave you every chance to win the game yesterday. He was great. You can't you can give up a hit, but you can't throw the ball around like the Dodgers or the Brewers did there to give them an extra run. But I get it for a average baseball fan or even the average sports fan can check that out and say, well, wait a minute. So they have the best player by a million years in Ohtani. They've got Mookie Betts, who's a former MVP. They've got Freddie Freeman, who's going to be a Hall of Famer. I mean, they loaded. Eric's right about it. I mean, and there's 5 teams that have all the money, frankly, 5 to 6. Baseball created this on its own, and I don't know how they're going to get out of it without a massive work stoppage coming after next season.
Well, and if you look at some of these like payrolls to what the owners are, the Dodgers owner's worth $14 billion. The Brewers owner's worth $2 billion. How much? Like, how is that even fair? Like baseball, I know the players don't want it, but you're gonna get it because there's no parity anymore. It's top heavy. You're not gonna have a low market team like the Brewers.
I think that's why
do what they do. Like it's gonna be done. It's done.
The owners,
the Brewers are taking the sword. Like every other Wisconsin team is taking the sword for everything.
He's speaking with emotion here, which it's fine. That's what being a fan is all about. That's why I think some of the owners are probably rooting for the Brewers to win this series. But we'll see. If it ends up, the ALCS is completely a coin flip now between Toronto and Seattle, and they will adopt the same moniker the Brewers had because they'll be massive underdogs against the Dodgers in the World Series next week. I will say this. They can't have it both ways, though. Last year, when it was Dodgers-Yankees, everyone's like, oh, baseball's great. It's back. We're going to have huge ratings, and it's going to be fantastic. And now you've got the big bullies, the Dodgers, and they're going to be massive favorites against whoever ends up winning the ALCS. I love the sport, but it cannot get out of its own way. And now you really risk it depending – I mean – they're fun to watch. I'll love tonight, and you're going to hate this. Watch Ohtani pitch, and he's going to hit. That, to me, you got me. I'm in. Let's go. But there's no other teams that can afford to do what they're doing. Glasnow would be a ace on every other team. He's the Dodgers' 4th best pitcher, to Eric's point. That is – what are we doing? Meanwhile, what are we doing? I've banished all my Jet stuff to the corner. Last night was a perfect example of why you want to talk about ineptitude with running a franchise. Because the Bengals are playing the Steelers last night to start Week 7 of the National Football League. And as the games played out, it was a great game. I don't think anybody foresaw Cincinnati doing what they did to beat Pittsburgh. All I could think of is, why can't the Jets get players like this? Oh, wait a minute. They had them both. Flacco hits T. Higgins for the touchdown here. Cincinnati. I love those uniforms. I'm telling you, the white Bengal ones are great. Who would have predicted that Aaron Rodgers would play well this season, right? Everybody. Touchdown to Pat Freiermuth, who's really good. That makes it a 20-17 score. Same score in the fourth quarter. Flacco throws a bullet for a touchdown. Again, he was playing for the Browns, and they traded him in the division to Noah Fant. It's 27-17. Back come the Steelers. Jalen Warren's a really good player. Viking fans saw that firsthand. Gets a big-time run. Going to set up Rodgers to Darnell Washington, who I believe, Eric, is he like 6'7"? Look how tall this guy is. Yeah, he's a giant over everybody else. Makes it 27-24. Now it's 30-24 Bengals. You knew that Rodgers had something left in him. I mean, look, he evades, throws. How many times have we saw that? Didn't see it the last 2 years. I can tell you that with the Jets. To Freiermuth, 68 yards. Steelers go in front at 31-30. Bengals, though, aren't done. Flacco looked like 2008 here. This is a beauty to Higgins with a smart move to go down inbounds. Didn't score the touchdown. I'm sure fantasy owners are freaking out, but don't care about that. They want to win the football game. Caused Pittsburgh to use all of its timeouts. Sets up Evan McPherson for the game winner. The Bengals, who had lost 4 in a row, and they got their butts kicked the last 4 weeks. You remember the Vikings did it to them. Cincinnati, led by Joe Flacco, they might be able to hang around and then get Burrow back. Beat the Steelers to 31. Flacco goes for 342 and 3. Rodgers goes for 249 and 4 touchdowns. Both of them were over 40 and looked fantastic last night. All I could think of is, the Jets had each of those guys, and they decided to move on. The Jets moved on from Flacco to start Mike White, if I remember correctly, and the Rodgers deal. How's that looking, by the way? Not only in New York, but in Minnesota as well. I know there were plenty of people on my timeline last night saying the Vikings could have had this guy. He wanted to come to Minnesota. And I know hindsight is what it is, but doesn't look great now, especially, Vikes are in the situation they're at. I regret Rodgers playing in front of that offensive line. He just did it with the Jets. Probably wouldn't have been great. That's the kickoff to Week 7 last night. We'll get our full picks, my dad's reaction to that as well, with his beloved Steelers falling last night to the Bengals coming up in just a little bit. We got a packed guest lineup here on this Friday morning, which is brought to us by Northwestern Mutual. At 9:35, you'll visit with Oliver Lucht, former Davies standout North Dakota State linebacker who got his first career interception last week in the win over SIU. I visited with him earlier this week. Fun conversation about his time on the scout team and now getting some reps. That's coming up at 9:35. At 10 o'clock, Brad Schlossman joins us in his usual Friday time slot. I've heard of a little game this weekend between North Dakota and Minnesota playing up at the Ralph. The Gophers were actually practicing in Moorhead yesterday. Shout out to Cullen Holt for getting over there, getting some video and interview with Bob Motzko. That's pretty cool. And for the young hockey players in Moorhead to have the Gophers in town, that's pretty cool. We'll talk with Brad coming up at 10. And at 10:35, my dad will join us. He's on the road this weekend. He's on his way to Talladega. He's going to the race in Alabama on Sunday, I believe, with my cousin. So we'll chat with him about his. I don't think he's ever been to Talladega. This is one of the checkmark ones. So we'll chat about that, and of course the game last night, and get his picks for the weekend coming up at 10:35. That and a heck of a lot more here on a busy Friday. We'll take our first break. We come back. Wild night of football last night locally. We'll recap that, including a stunner on the south side between Cheyenne and Shanley. We're back on Hot Mic on this Friday morning right after this. Welcome back, everybody. Don't forget, we've got high school football tonight, start of a dynamite weekend. Number 1 versus number 2. It's Davies and Horace. Watch it live tonight here on Extra, 7 o'clock. Cullen Holt will have the call of that one. Should be a great football game. Winner has the inside track to the EDC championship. That's because of what happened last night on the south side of town. Cheyenne and Shanley played last night. And I think as we talked about the game yesterday with our guy Sam, who called it last night, that not necessarily a foregone conclusion, but Shanley was the favorite. But when these teams play, there's just something about it, because we've seen Cheyenne's had the better hand of Shanley through the years, and they had it again last night. The game started, though, with some drama, some theatrics on the opening kickoff. Shanley decides to run some trickeration, and they get a kickoff return touchdown to start the game, to make it a 7-0 score. After that, though, boy, the Mustangs were on it. That touchdown pass from L.J. Satrum makes it a 15-7 Cheyenne lead. Then Kai Schlichting, the Bison commit, takes off and scores. Again, Cheyenne had 28 first-half points. Their offense, look at Jeremy Newton throwing the football. That's a 70-yard touchdown pass there. Shanley tried to get back into it. That's a heck of a play, by the way, to get into the end zone. That cut it at that moment to 5, but Cheyenne would pull away. They scored the final 2 touchdowns of the game. Mustangs would win it by the final count of 49-28. And that is a monster result in terms of standings in the EDC, which we'll get to in a second. Here's the rest of the games last night in the EDC in 3A football. Everybody else playing at least tonight in 3A. Out west, Century got a big win over Legacy. Century wins 6 in a row now after an 0-2 start. Mandan clinched a playoff spot. The Braves beat Minot 34-20. Mandan's going to be the 4 out of the West, and we've got 3 other games tonight in the EDC or 3A football. So here are the up-to-date standings now in 3A. Because of Cheyenne's win, they have the tiebreaker on Shanley, which is a big deal. You're the 4. You're likely going to get either Century or Bismarck in the first round of the state tournament. Now this clears the deck for Davies and Horace. Again, Horace has its hardest 2 games of the season to wrap. They got Davies tonight and Shanley next week, both games on the road. Horace wins both, they win the EDC. Davies has this one with Horace tonight, then they have Fargo North next week. No slight to our friends on the north side, but if Davies gets tonight, that's likely going to lock up the EDC championship for them. And again, the number 1 spot in the East, that means you get 2 home games in the playoffs. Meanwhile, in the WDA, you saw Century's win last night means they've got the half-game lead on Bismarck, who plays tonight. Legacy falls now to the 3 at 2-2. Likely that's where they're going to be locked in. We said Mandan clinched a spot as well. The Braves have won their last 2 games. Why that's important, if you're the 3 of the 4, you go on the road and come east for your first game of the postseason. Going to be really interesting to see how this pans out with 1 week to go. And again, Bismarck plays Century next week to wrap the regular season. Kudos, by the way, on scheduling that game, the final game of the regular season. Meanwhile, in 2A football, Kindred won again. Breaking news, Vikings are good. 47-7 over Jamestown. The Vikings are 8-0 with 1 game to go in their first year of 2A football. They've been A-OK. Minot North. Remember last year they lost in the state semis in 2A football. It's them and the Vikings on a collision course. They beat Jamestown. They remain unbeaten. They're 8-0. St. Mary's got a nice win over Watford City. And South, how about South spoiled the party? Nobody gave the Bruins the memo that they were supposed to get run over by Red River. Shout out to Tyler Coastal's team. Nice road victory for South. They beat Red River, and that has some implications on where things are at in 2A football. Let's start in the East here. So Kindred is 4-0. Central plays tonight, as you saw. Central's got a matchup with Central Cass, which is a big game because the winner of that has likely their eyes on second and a home playoff game. But look at this now. With Red River's loss, that takes them almost out. The only thing they have going for them, Red River has the tiebreaker over Central Cass because they have the head-to-head win there. And then remember, Central and Red River play the final week of the season next week. That could very well be for a home playoff game as well. That's why the South win was such a biggie last night. Meanwhile, out west, Minot North is head and shoulders here. They have the head-to-head on Devil's Lake. They pretty much clinched the 1 seed out of the West last night. Devil's Lake in 2. Watford and St. Mary's are tied for 3rd, each of them at 2-2, heading into the final week of the regular season. So again, we got some games tonight. Mostly actually in Class A, as you'll see at our ticker. We've got Class A games, 9-man wrapping up. And then the playoffs begin in those classes, in Class A and 9-man next week. It's the final week of regular season football in 2A and 3A, and then we are on to the postseason, folks. And if you missed it yesterday, we got the 6A Minnesota bracket. Minnesota football playoffs begin on Tuesday night, so we'll check out on that. But it doesn't get any bigger than the one tonight with Horace and Davies. Looking forward to following that game once we get to Indiana tonight to see who ends up winning. And if it's Horace, look out, man. Then that game next week with Shanley becomes even bigger if they're able to get it tonight. And again, as we mentioned, if Davies wins, looks like they've got the inside track to the top spot. That's our high school football preview to get you ready for the games going on tonight. We'll break. We come back. You'll hear from Oliver Lucht after his biggest play as a Bison last week against Southern Illinois and his road to the field. That's coming up when we come back on Hot Mic right after this. Welcome back, everybody. Don't forget, we're with you tomorrow, Bison Game Day, live at 10 a.m. from Memorial Stadium in Terre Haute. North Dakota State, Indiana State. Our coverage begins at 11:50. The game at noon. Nice and early for everybody. Bison currently are a 34.5-point favorite against the Trees. Myself, Kyle Emanuel, have the call with Sam on the sidelines at noon on WDAY. Before we get set to get on the Big Bird later today to head to Terre Haute in the Hoosier State in southern Indiana, I had a chance earlier this week to visit with Fargo Davies product Oliver Lucht, who last week had one of the 3 forced turnovers the Bison had in the win over Southern Illinois. Now in his third year in the program, third-year sophomore after redshirting in 23, got a little bit of time last year, and now after the injury to Alex Elliott, the transfer from the University of Minnesota, he has now emerged as the backup linebacker for Nathaniel Staling. And as the game played out on Saturday, had a chance to get in and made a huge play, an interception that the Bison ended up scoring a touchdown out of that just a few plays later. I had a chance to catch up with him earlier this week to chat about the play and the road to the field and how gratifying the interception was last Saturday.
I don't know. I was telling people it was like a blur. I don't remember much, but the one thing I do remember is celebrating with the teammates. It was pretty cool seeing everyone swarm me from the sidelines. It was it's something that I've never felt before. So it was cool getting to play, and then I think the coolest part was just seeing everyone celebrate with me.
Well, describe that, coming to the sidelines and just being bear hugged by, it seemed like 50 guys.
Yeah, no, I just remember getting up and seeing Keenan, and then even seeing Logan and Nathaniel. I was like, these dudes are on the sideline and we're at midfield and they're celebrating with me. So it was pretty cool seeing, my roommates and then just every one of my teammates that I've known for all these years. It was pretty cool celebrating with them.
Does that make what the last couple of years pretty worthwhile to have a play like that on Saturday?
Yeah, it's pretty special because it's all you've worked for. Just all you're doing. It's pretty cool to get a big moment like that, and knowing that your coaches trust you putting in that type of situation, it's special. Yeah.
Describe for people that don't know, Oliver, what the last couple of years have been like. Scout team is more, I would say, mental than a physical grind. Is that accurate?
Yeah, no, you're going against some good dudes on scout team, and so it's a lot. You can feel a little almost worthless in a sense because everyone's focusing on the starters and all that, but it's the scouts are the backbone of this program, and so I think I owned my role. I knew what I had to do, and it's paying off for sure.
Go up against guys like Gray, Mason, Cam on a daily basis, and that don't feel like it made you better.
Yeah, for sure it made me better. Going against, as a linebacker, you go against the linemen, pretty much every play. And so I think going against those dudes, they not only made me better, but, they helped me with stuff as well, tell me what I was doing wrong and stuff. And, Cam, he's an unreal passer. So I think, working off his eyes and stuff was definitely beneficial too.
Was there a moment for you realized I'm a Division I player, I can do this, I can hang here?
Yeah, it all kind of started clicking this last spring camp, with the graduation of 2 6 years. I thought in my mind, I got to start locking it in. I got to start embracing my role. And, I in the offseason, I worked hard with Nathaniel and we helped out. And then the spring camp went really good for me, and it was awesome because I started figuring out I can play here, so it was pretty cool.
What was there, a practice, a moment, just like, hey, you went back home and said, oh, I think I may have it?
Yeah, it was just like I remember, my freshman, even into a little bit of my second year, it's like Coach Olson's talking to the starters about linebacker play, and it's just like it's like a different language when you're that young, and so I didn't know what he was talking about. But then I think right when it started clicking is when I understood what he was meaning, and so that's when I knew, okay, now I understand the defense, now I understand what I'm doing.
We were talking about this yesterday about yourself making a play. Reese has been doing stuff. Peter's out there playing. He played last year at running back. What was it like to see the Fargo kids going out there and representing?
It's awesome. I think it shows that you don't need everyone from out of state. You got some great talent in state, and so Peter's great. It's great having him back in the linebacker room, and Reese is a stud. He's doing amazing this year. So I think it just puts Fargo on the map even more.
With Truman, I think he caught a pass right after your play. A little love for the Eagles there on back-to-back plays.
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah, I saw the clip of that, and it was pretty cool. Yeah, I saw that clip, and it was pretty cool. Truman's great. Working with his dad, obviously, in high school, and now playing with him in high school, and now here, he's great. I love working with him for sure.
What was that like? Tell me about that playing for Wayne. What the establishment of Davies football is tough. We're gonna, how you guys are gonna play, of carrying that over here at NDSU.
Yeah, I mean, he's a well-experienced coach. He knows what he's doing for sure, and he gets you ready for that moment. And so I think Truman knows that as well. He's done a good job coaching everyone. I think everyone who's come from Davies knows, it's hard-nosed football down south there. So I think he prepared me well for NDSU.
Is there some smack talk between the Eagles, Bruins, and Spartans going on?
No, me and Peter get after it a little bit in the linebacker room. I think Peter knows just his place maybe a little bit. But yeah, we it's all fun. At the end of the day, and we know, I never got the chance to actually play Peter because they were in the lower division,
right.
And then when they were in a division, he broke his wrist or something like that. So we keep it a little low, but yeah, it's fun.
And you got Cheyenne guys in here too, so I'm sure they're gonna throw some barbs.
Yeah,
right?
Coach Olson loves the local rivalry, so he's always talking about it. And who's Davies got? Oh, they putting the smack on this, so it's really fun. Yeah.
Has this changed, not necessarily expectation-wise for you, but to have a play like this, say, okay, I've gone out there and done it. Does that change your own self-confidence maybe now?
Yeah, I think it only raises the standard even more. It just puts me in a place where I got to play like that every game now, and interceptions are rare, obviously, but I think the performance that I need to have, it only goes up from there, and I'm holding myself to a higher standard for sure.
Just, was there a message or a call you got over the last couple of days that really stood out after that play?
Yeah, I mean, I just got so many support from people I haven't talked to in a while, just from the community. I had a couple former coaches text me saying great job, even parents I remember from high school, booster club, all that type of stuff. Just people that I haven't spoke to in a while but mean a lot to me when they reach out like that. It's pretty cool.
Take me back recruiting-wise, what that experience was like, and what was this always where you wanted to be?
I mean, growing up, these guys were awesome. They were winning so many championships, and everyone knew the Bison were just the best team in the country. So growing up, I mean, once the recruiting started hitting off, I was like, okay, I kind of need to play here. Like, these guys are awesome. I've watched them growing up. So when it actually happened, it was really cool. Yeah.
Was it a phone call from Coach Enslick? Tell me big.
Yeah, he called me into his office. I think it was just some day during the summer.
Okay.
It was some random day. Me and my dad went up there, and he told me, and that's when I just remember we were in his office, and he told me, and I was like, it didn't feel real at first, and then I think it was like a day later I committed because I was.
The next question, was it on the spot, or did you think?
Yeah, well, we asked him, how much time do we get, just to ask him that, but I knew in a day I would be coming here, so yeah, it was pretty cool.
So now, to do this 2.5 years later, is this what you thought it would be?
It's even better. I knew it was going to be, hard-nosed football. There's only one way to win championships, and that's doing it through here. So it's definitely even more. The opportunities I've had coming here, it's been amazing. The White House, one national championship, all that stuff. I'm truly blessed to be here for sure.
Conversation there with Oliver Lucht from Fargo Davies High School. Good stuff there. And, we had the conversation, you heard it earlier, on, we get plenty of attention for the guys that have come from out of state. Like if there's a guy that comes from Florida, if there's a guy that comes from Texas, Wisconsin, the Iowa, certainly. There are guys that Georgia in the old days when the Bison were recruiting that state pretty heavily. Those are the ones, Illinois, get a lot of attention. And frankly, in North Dakota, we've given a lot of love to the 9-man guys because look what the 9-man guys are doing now in the National Football League. It's something different, though, when the Fargo guys are out doing something. And when you've seen, the guys we cover every week on First Down Friday, from whether it be Reese Kessel, who's had just a breakout season. Truman Weremeyer has been a 5-year dude for this Bison football team after a great high school career at Davies. Peter Haugo was playing running back last year. We saw how great a football player he was at Fargo North. And now doing what he's doing for the Bison, back now playing linebacker after playing running back last year. And they've had a handful of guys at Shanley. Johnny Gore is my guy. That was a great player at Shanley. To see the Fargo guys come out and then play and be good at the Division I level, I don't know. To me, that story never gets old. So that was pretty cool. And you saw it, the reaction, we had it on our cameras, and you saw it there during our interview. The bench went nuts. That's one of those plays when a guy gets a first career deal, it's a different kind of reaction, and they exploded off the bench in that win on Saturday. Good for him. And to stick it out, that's not an easy deal. Scout team is tough, mental grind. Those guys aren't going on the plane today. The ones who do scout team, they're staying back. There's only 65, 66 guys going to be on the airplane today heading to Terre Haute. That is a grind to be able to do that. Our appreciation to Oliver for giving us a few minutes here. We'll break. We come back. We'll wrap up our first hour. Got a couple emails to get to. Big second hour. Brad Schlossman coming up as we get ready for UND and Minnesota. Back on Hot Mic on this Friday morning right after this. All right, wrapping up our first hour. Schloss coming up here in just a few minutes. Let's get a couple emails in here before we wrap up. First one here. We haven't got a Twins email in a while. Dom, what do you make of who the Twins are going to interview or are potentially interested in interviewing for the open managerial job? I wish I didn't do this earlier in the week because I saw it. I'm like, really? There are 4 confirmed candidates, at least according to The Athletic, for the open job. Derek Shelton, who's a former Twins assistant. He's the old Pirates manager. James Rowson, another former Twins bench coach, former hitting coach, I think, that I believe works for the Yankees now. Ramon Vasquez, who works for the Red Sox. And then the other one that knocked me off my socks, which for a certain generation of Twins fans, they, I'm sure, got a smile on their face. My guy Hayden Goethe and Tom Mix are probably smiling about this. Nick Punto. None of them are inspiring. None of them are interesting to me in the least. Just all of it is the whole franchise. I mean, we got a whole season ahead. We're talking about it off the top on the baseball payroll and investing and the disparities between the haves and certainly the have-nots. And the Twins have certainly put themselves in the have-not category. Just really nothing right now with this franchise is getting me all that geared up for anything. They'll make a hire here in the next couple weeks, I imagine, but it just nothing inspiring out of that. If Nick Punto is the Twins manager, man, that is going to be that'll be something. That's all I got for it. Got to be something. Here's one for Eric. Dom asked Eric, what's his thoughts? This happened this morning. Formula One has a new TV home. F1 is signed up with Apple TV starting next year. I did not know this. It happened this morning. 5-year deal confirmed there. So what do we make of that, racing guy? Them
congratulations,
going to Apple
F1.
TV?
You just booted yourself out of the United States. NASCAR tried this like 10 plus years ago, and it backfired on them, and they're still trying to get their fans back.
So... Okay, so they've been on ESPN, correct? F1 has?
Yeah, they could have took less money to be on ESPN over the air, like more. Even they were on WDAY a few times when they were racing in Miami, stuff like that. Like now they're just gonna go. It's like Apple TV baseball. It's irrelevant.
That's tough. So next year, the Indy 500 now is on Fox, right? So
yes.
NASCAR has like Memorial Day weekend. I'm trying to think because they have a big F1 race always on Memorial Day. It used to be Monaco, right? So
yeah, it used to be Monaco.
So Memorial Day weekend, Fox has the Indy 500. The big race in Charlotte, the NASCAR race, is now Amazon Prime, correct? And now F1 will have. I think Monaco is going to be on Apple TV. That's different. That is again another win for streaming. We've talked about this for the last couple of years of Apple TV wants in. Netflix is certainly knocking on the door. Netflix is going to have more sports as we go into the last half of 25 and into 26. That if you're not at the table, if you're a streaming company and don't have some sort of live sports property, you are irrelevant. I get what you're saying on the baseball's Apple TV deal stunk, and thankfully that's over after this season just wrapped. But Again, think of it now. Everybody that has a major Peacock has, now they have the NBA starting next week. Peacock has that. Netflix has the NFL. Amazon certainly has the NFL, the NBA, and the NHL, and NASCAR. Netflix has what they have. Apple TV is getting in now with F1. It had a major boon. I did not watch it. I'm sure you did, the Netflix series, the F1 Netflix series that made it super popular, that everybody was on board with that there was a 2-year stretch where F1 got super popular. I'm self-admittedly, I'm not an F1 guy. It's kind of cool. I don't mind the street racing, but it's not my favorite. But I did not see the money on this. I'd be interested to see what they left ESPN and ABC for to take the deal with Apple. But yeah, that's that.
F1 in 2026 is going to Montreal.
Ooh, okay.
So they're like, now they can try to compete with the Indy 500.
That's the same weekend?
Yeah, that's the same weekend. They're going to lose their you-know-what.
Yeah, that's not
unless
great.
they somehow find a window to put it in between the 500 and the 600.
Well, Indy 500 goes at noon, right?
Yeah.
And the NASCAR race is normally at they'd have to.
It's like
they're not going
6
to race at 9 o'clock in the morning. I don't know. Here's
You'd
the
have
deal.
to go from like 3 to 5.
It's 5 years, $160 million is what F1 got from Apple TV, which that's okay. Not great math, mine. That's $32 million a year. They'll take that. That's why they did it on that.
And they made a mistake because they're there's an American team now going in to F1. Like Cadillac is now going to be a brand.
Really?
Yeah. So they're taking some IndyCar guys, some really popular IndyCar guys to F1. So now it's now you're really kind of boning yourself because no, I'm not going to pay to watch F1. I don't care that much. I'll pay to watch NASCAR. I'll pay to watch the IndyCar.
Yeah.
I'm not paying to watch F1.
Oh, that's the great question is if people will do that. Last thing, the email comes in. Dom, you know Michael Barker is going to be at the Gopher Nebraska game. If that name is not familiar for college football rubes, he is. He's the guy who runs the college football stadium Twitter account that has been to almost all of them. He was here last year. People remember he did a game in Grand Forks and then later in the day came to a game in Fargo. I think he came to the Bison Jacks game because I'm almost positive he came by our pregame setup or our live show setup we did out in Tailgate before the Bison Jack regular season game. He's going to be at the Gopher Nebraska game tonight. Apparently everybody is going to be at the Gopher Nebraska game, except for our guy Stace. He's got to work. Well, we'll get the joy of watching it with him tonight. We'll break. We come back. We'll start our second hour. Brad Schlossman will join us, get us ready for the series of the year in college hockey. It's UND in Minnesota. It's coming up when we come back.
This is Hot Mike. Hot Mike. On the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo. Time to chat some hockey.
Shot score! North Dakota wins!
The best college hockey writer in the country is on deck.
North Dakota, champions of the college hockey world!
Here's Brad Schlossman.
All right, it is Friday at 10, which means we've talked with our guy Schloss, who Sam's been bogarting him the last couple weeks. I haven't had a chance to talk to Schloss since the season got going. It feels like a perfect time to do it since we got UND and the Gophers. First off, shout out to your new laptop. You got the scenic background, man. It looks great. Looks fantastic.
Yeah, I don't need to close the blinds anymore. Before, it would just be a black silhouette if I had the blinds open. So let's get some sunlight in here.
So give me first your impression of the series last weekend and the game down in St. Paul, watching it on the stream. See, again, no surprise, there were a ton of UND fans in St. Paul. Did that work like they hoped? Obviously, UND won, but crowd-wise, was that what they were hoping for?
You know, I never really talked to the St. Thomas people on what their expectations were for that game. So, that would be interesting to find out. I think they had more for the Minnesota games that they had the last couple of years. Those also weren't on Sundays. You know, I think that's a tough day to schedule a game Sunday night. That kind of eliminates Grand Forks people driving down too. So I think the majority of UND fans who were there were ones who were living in the Twin Cities. The students had a good turnout for St. Thomas, but it was it was good. But in a 19,000 seat building, it's just not the same as what it's going to be in their new arena when you shrink it down and get that many people in a 5,000 seat venue or so.
So that's a perfect segue because the photos came out. We were talking about it on the show yesterday of St. Thomas's new palace that opens next week, which we've been hearing about for a while. And I know you and I have talked about it, how much of a game changer this can be, not only for hockey. Basketball is going to play in there as well, which I think is going to take off. What'd you make? I mean, this looks fantastic, Brad.
Yeah, it does. It looks super nice. It looks like it's a great size too. That's really been a big part in the new college hockey arenas, is making sure they're right size so it's always packed and raucous. And I think that's going to be a great new arena for St. Thomas to play in. And that's a huge part when you're building a program, to have the facilities, and St. Thomas has them. You think Arizona State has its new arena now. Penn State got its arena right away. So some of these new college hockey programs, that's a reason why some of these teams have had so much success early in their existence.
I just look at for when they're in the NCHC next year, and you've got like Duluth coming in or UND coming there, like that. That's gonna be a really hard ticket for a visiting team to get, I would imagine.
Yeah, well. Yeah, I would imagine their fans are going to want to make sure they see those, and we'll see how many opposing fans are able to sneak their way in.
So yesterday, the Gophers were in town. They were practicing here in Moorhead to get ready for the series this weekend, which we got some video of this, which was really neat. The amount of youngsters that were over there, which has got to be it's a huge deal, as you know how big hockey is in the city of Moorhead, that Bob Motzko's team was here. That's a neat deal, not to travel early to get up here and get a couple of skates in before the game tonight.
Yeah, I think Bob Motzko's done a good job getting out in different communities in Minnesota and bringing his team there. They've had bye weeks where they've gone down and practiced in, Rochester or somewhere in southern Minnesota, really trying to sell the program. And, they know they're going to recruit a lot in the Twin Cities and in the state of Minnesota, not just the Twin Cities. And so they want to get out there and see what they can do to, build their brand outside.
Now, you say the two teams, it comes with a fever pitch with it, but for a new generation, is it still there even when you're talking with the guys that haven't played in a game like this? Do they understand what this is, what this series is?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think it takes long. I saw a freshman who is not from this area this week, and he was sitting on his phone watching old games of UND Minnesota. So they learn pretty quickly. If for some reason they haven't figured it out by 7 or probably 6:30 when they come out for warm-ups tonight, they'll figure it out quite fast. How much this game means to UND and Minnesota. It's just one of those great college rivalries. I think that's one of the great parts about college sports is rivalry games.
Sorry to interrupt there, but to have it in the second week of the season as well, to have it feel like this is huge for long term. We're talking down the road in March. This can go a long way for both these teams.
Yeah, non-conference games are huge in college hockey. It helps build your the MPI is the formula that's used to pick the tournament. This will determine how many teams from each conference get in. The NCHC had a tough non-conference stretch in the first month last year, and that put them behind the 8 ball all year long. Only 2 teams got in last year. So, I think, the NCHC is cheering for other teams in the league. There will probably be a lot of North Dakota fans in the NCHC this weekend. And this will be a big one, as was last weekend. This weekend's just a little different because it's the rivalry and there's so much history behind it. It's
a Captain Obvious question because I know Minnesota's always talented, but how does Motzko's team stack up this year? What kind of top-end players do the Gophers bring to the Ralph tonight?
Yeah, what's interesting is both these teams had tons of turnover after last year. So I think both these teams are kind of trying to feel out exactly what they are. And it's so early in the season. Brody Lamb is back for Minnesota. Brody Zemer, LJ Mooney's a freshman. Those are kind of some of the drivers offensively. UND knows Tanner Ludke really well. He played for Omaha the last couple years, so he's going to be a really impactful player for the Gophers. They have some talented freshmen coming in as well, but they are young. Defensively, they have a group that's all being moved up in roles. They had some really good D-men the last few years who have moved on. So some of these guys have played quite a bit, and now they're just playing a bigger role. And I think a guy like Middlestat was ready for it. He probably would have played a bigger role if not for having a Ryan Chesley or a Sam Renzel on the team the last few years. So I think some of these guys are ready for bigger roles on their back end.
All right, so after seeing Gibson Homer play in person, I know you've had a couple times, but now actually seeing a 6'6" goaltender, can you describe that? Of what on skates he's got to be at least 6'8", 6'9" then?
Yeah, I mean, I really like the foundation of his game. When you're a bigger goaltender, you don't need to come out as far to challenge shots because you're already just taking up more of the net. And that allows him to when there are cross crease passes, he can get over a little faster, A, because he's not as far out challenging the initial shot, and B, when he sticks out his leg to make a leg save, it's a little longer than what we've seen the past few years. So I've really liked the way he plays. He's just a modern style goalie. And he can be a difference maker. And I thought he was this weekend. That was kind of the part of the series that wasn't talked about as much was UND had better goaltending both nights. And if you have better goaltending, that really increases your chances to win. And they had it both games.
I'm trying to think of the first big goalie I remember, like Olaf Kolzig. Remember, he was a huge guy for the Washington Capitals. Like I'm trying to when this trend really got going of guys over 6'1", 6'2", to now we're this point where you've got giants back there.
Yeah, I mean, I like pointing out Andrei Vasilevsky from Tampa Bay.
He's a tank.
But yeah, the trend of big goalies it's just filtered down. Go look in the USHL and find out how many sub 6 foot goalies are even in the USHL.
Yeah.
Like it's really become a trend, and UND's had some. Adam Scheel was a bigger goalie.
Yeah. Yep.
Since then, they kind of had some smaller goalies in there. So this is kind of a change to the bigger style goalie. Jan Spunar, their backup, he's like 6'3". Caleb Heil, who's coming next year, he's like 6'2". So this is kind of UND's kind of following suit in the trend right now.
I was visiting with you off air before you came on about your story today, which is excellent, which they always are. GrandForksHerald.com on Keaton Verhoff, who's now the new big deal. He might be the next big deal come June for the NHL draft. The backstory on this guy is amazing, that he was already on a skateboard when he was 2 years old. Brad, tell us about this and how you came about finding this story. It's amazing.
Yeah, I talked to his mom about just what he was like as a kid, and she said he just was a naturally gifted mover. No matter what he did, he could run when he was 9 months old. He was climbing a ladder at age 1. He could fully operate a skateboard at age 2. He's always been a bigger kid for his age. What I found interesting is that he was actually a goalie till age 11, and it was then he decided. His mom thinks he got a little bored sitting back there sometimes. And when you're a goalie, you impact the games like in a reactive way. And she said she thought he wanted to go and put his stamp on games in a more proactive way. So he really thought long and hard about that decision at a young age. He's still 11, and he made a pros and cons list, and he decided, I'm going to try to play defense. 4 years later, he's a first-round pick in the WHL draft. This is like year 6 as a D-man, and he's already, getting attention as a likely top 5 pick in the NHL draft next summer. Now, the other thing is he is very young. He was 16 this summer.
Wow.
He just turned 17 this summer. So he is the youngest player to ever play a varsity hockey game at UND. So there are going to be ups and downs.
Yeah.
You know, you don't just come into college at that age and not have some ups and downs. But man, the package and the toolkit and skill set he has, a guy that's that big and can move like he can, and who is as agile as he is. He has a lot of NHL scouts really intrigued right now.
Is drooling the right word?
Yes. I mean, there's going to be a throng of scouts everywhere UND goes this year. And this is a lot of times these guys get drafted before they come here.
Correct.
They don't,
right.
The draft year is usually like after your senior year of high school. Well, he accelerated to come early. And so that's going to lend to just scouts everywhere at every game. Like I was walking through the concourse of the XL, or what is it called? Grand Casino Arena
Whatever
now.
it is now, yeah.
And I mean, it was just scouts everywhere. So and that's going to be the norm this year.
The cool part about your story, he lived with Jerome McGinley?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I randomly found that out too. I was looking at his old teams and saw Jerome coached him, and I asked him about it, and he said, "Yeah, I lived in his basement for a year." So
that's awesome.
What an opportunity there to learn from one of the best out there, Hockey Hall of Famer, a longtime pro, and he said he learned a lot from Jerome McGinley, both on and off the ice. And you know what a great guy to be around for a young hockey player.
So when Dane Jackson was on the show right after he got hired in March, I asked him about recruiting, especially getting major Canadian players, knowing full well that it was going to open up, Brad, with junior hockey, with Canadian junior hockey, that getting back into Western Canada, getting those kind of players come back to UND. Obviously, Verhoff is one. Cole Reshney is another. How big of a deal was that just in the offseason? We've got to put our flag down again and get these players to come back to Grand Forks.
Yeah, I think so. And the other thing is this was the first year. UND's always recruited Western Canada, but this is the first year that major junior players, guys who played in Canadian major juniors, were eligible to come to college. And so one reason I believe getting Verhoff and Reshney is so important. For those that don't know, Reshney is a first-round pick of the Calgary Flames. It's the very start of this avenue being open. And by getting those guys, you are now on the radar of every team in Western Canada, because all these kids know who Reshney and Verhoff are. And so now all of a sudden they say, oh, that's interesting. They're going to North Dakota. I want to know more about that. I feel like when UND got Jonathan Taves, there was like a decade when I was asking Canadian players, like, how'd you learn about UND? And they said, well, I knew Jonathan Taves went there.
Yep.
And that's something that Keaton Verhoff can do for UND. Because he's from Western Canada, and the Canadian players all know the fellow Canadian players. So we'll see if that helps open the door to other high-end players for UND.
I had emailed to ask you this, and I was going to ask you as well. Even though they're not conference rivals anymore, can the games still be as good as when they were? Like, I don't think it's ever going to be better than those you wrote about earlier this week, the final 5 games. It's to me, that was the pinnacle. 2007, 2008, those games are untouchable in my mind. Can they still be that important or that good?
You know, it's different. The rivalry is definitely different because you're not playing in the conference tournament with 19,000 people at XL Energy Center. You know, you're not playing. You know, last year they didn't play, so there were only like 11 guys that are going to suit up this weekend that have even played in this rivalry. So it's a little different. That being said, like, it's still that series that everybody wants to watch. It still has the potential to have those moments that everyone remembers. And the thing that brings me to that is after they moved into the new leagues, they did have a Frozen Four game where Minnesota scored in the last second. They did have a game where, Minnesota was up 2-0, and after the 2-0 goal, Rhett Pitlick tossed his stick in the stands to celebrate. Right. He goes in the penalty box. UND scores 4 goals, and everybody remembers that. Yep. Now, I think if that's Omaha, if that happens in the Omaha game, people forget about the stick toss a little bit. Some people remember it, but not. Like, everybody remembers that game because it's UND in Minnesota. Everything is magnified this weekend, and I still don't think there's anything like it in college hockey. It's still the best. The players love it. They want to play in it. The coaches it's probably a little added stress on them, but the players and the fans, like, it doesn't get better for them.
Is there the line already started? Are the students outside? Do you know at the Ralph already?
Oh, I guarantee. I haven't driven by this morning, but there's no doubt they're already out there in their tents having a good time.
Last thing before I go, you're a busy man. I appreciate it. The rash of goal scoring in the National Hockey League, is that something that is better talent, worse goalies, combination of both? What do you make so far through the first 2 weeks of the season?
Let's see as the season goes on where it's at. I feel still small sample size right now. Definitely at the end of seasons, I feel teams get tighter in their structure and it's harder to score goals. We see that in college as well. It's just everyone's a little more detailed. The games are, high stakes. Teams don't want to make mistakes. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the season pans out.
You're the man. I know you're busy. Enjoy the weekend. It's going to be fantastic to follow. We'll look forward for your stories, and we'll talk next week, okay?
Perfect. Thanks, Tom.
There he goes. Brad Schlossman joining us on this Friday morning. UND, Minnesota from the Ralph coming up tonight and tomorrow. I imagine ticket prices are a bit high to get into the building. Looking forward to how these games play out. It'll never be what it was, but it doesn't mean it's still not as good, I guess is maybe the best way to take out of that. We'll break. We come back. Got a couple more emails to get to, other topics I wanted to hit. Of course, don't forget, in a few minutes, we got NFL picks with my Pops to wrap up a fun week of shows. Back on Hot Mic right after this. Welcome back, everybody. All right, thanks to Brad for giving us a few minutes there. We got a couple minutes before we break and do some picks. I'm just looking at some point spreads this weekend across FCS. We have a bunch of teams getting their bye weeks now, halfway through. Quite a few teams in the top 10, top 15, top 20. One thing, by the way, for you Jackrabbit fans, South Dakota State's game has been moved up tomorrow. It's supposed to be a night game in Murray. Now they're going to play it at 1 o'clock tomorrow because of some storms moving that way. We were following this. Actually, the weather forecast, and this is a roundabout way to get to the points for tomorrow, but the weather forecast has actually changed for Terre Haute. For those that are going to the game tomorrow, we were anticipating rain for the football game. Now it says it's going to be mostly cloudy for kickoff, which is at 1 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow, noon Central, high of about 75. Rain is not going to happen until afterwards. The scattered thunderstorms are around 6 o'clock out of Terre Haute. So looks like we'll miss any precipitation. But in the Murray area, which is about 4.5 hours south of where the Bison will be, that's a bus trip, by the way, from Terre Haute. That's why Murray State got into the league. That game is now going to be played at 1. As I mentioned, the Bison are a hefty favorite. Tarleton State is a 23.5-point favorite tomorrow with West Georgia. The Grizz are a 27-point favorite. UND is a 6.5-point favorite tomorrow at Southern Illinois. Interesting to note that. That's probably the game of the weekend, the game in Carbondale. Illinois State is a 2.5-point favorite at home with Youngstown. The Coyotes are a 22.5-point favorite at Northern Iowa. Yeah, again, I know people are going to see that the USD, after they got destroyed here, are going to win 3 in a row, right? They're going to have beaten Murray. They barely beat Indiana State, and then they're going to beat Northern Iowa tomorrow. So their record is going to be, 5-3 at that point, because remember, their bye week comes at the end of the season. Does that mean I think the Coyotes are trending in the better direction? I'm not sold. They struggled with this Indiana State team last week. And people are going to say, well, a win is a win in conference play. It's not when you're barely beating Indiana State and you're giving up 5 sacks like they did last week. I am not there on the Coyotes. I don't care how many in a row they win. If they beat UND and they beat the Jacks, then we'll have a different conversation. But beating Northern Iowa, Indiana State, and Murray and giving up points to each of those teams, I still think there's some red flags with South Dakota's team. So those are some of the spreads tomorrow. One more email before we go to break. Dom, thank Eric for voicing the correct opinion about buying a baseball team. No fun watching a game when money has bought a team to win every year. No Milwaukee was the best hitters the Twins met all season. So there you go. You got some support. And I don't disagree with Eric's viewpoint on that. He's bringing up the graphic here of, you look, for those listening on our podcast, of the payrolls in baseball and how much teams are spending. Obviously, the Mets and the Dodgers are at the top. Toronto actually is high up there. Phillies, Diamondbacks, Padres. Surprisingly, the Yankees are all the way down to 11. That's 2004. The payroll tax for the Yankees. Yeah, that's absurd. Baseball's got to fix it, and it's got to come from the players, and the players don't want it. So if they're okay with seeing the same teams win it and the same teams spend an amount of money, what recourse is there? You can shut it down like they did 30-odd years ago, and go back and watch the Ken Burns baseball documentary, especially the 10th inning one, because that focuses on the labor stoppage. They went, they had the lockout began because it wasn't a players' strike. Well, yeah, the players walked out. They struck. That it was August of 94. I'll never forget it. And we got back to playing baseball late April of 95. So whatever that stretch is, that's 8 months. After all that time, the players got everything they wanted. And that union has only gotten stronger in the 30 years since. So I would tell you, enjoy next baseball season, because I got a bad feeling we could be heading for a major labor stoppage. Unless something drastically changes in the mindset of the players, and I don't foresee that happening, it's going to get ugly before it gets better. Appreciate the emails coming in here today on a fun Friday show. We'll break. We come back. Speaking of fun, it's time to do some NFL picks. We'll do that with my dad on location this morning. We're going to do that when Hot Mike returns on this Football Friday after this.
If that was me and you, if you'd have went with a Boston, you'd have been living in the garage. I had a Yankee hat on, of course, which I usually almost always do, but she says to me, if I were you, I'd take that hat off. And I looked at what look at it to begin with. I ain't taking my hat off. I know where I am. Yeah, right.
You believe anything that guy says? Because I don't.
He said he was going to marry J-Lo, too, remember? I finally told your mom. I said, there's no sense. Let's just put TVs in the room, because I'm only going to wake them up anyway. So
that's how I got a television?
Alrighty, it's that time as we come to the final half hour of our week. My dad joins us this morning. Pops is on location. He is a world traveler, as I forgot that he was doing it, and it's this weekend that he joins us from Chattanooga, Tennessee, on his way to Talladega for the NASCAR race on Sunday. What is up? How was your trip?
Oh, it was pretty good. Wasn't bad at all. There were a couple little small delays, but everything went good.
See, you don't have the Izzo effect of traveling. I only get that because you don't get it. My sister doesn't get it. Just me, apparently, on that. So.
Yeah. Don't be wishing it on me. I got to make it home yet.
So you're going to you've not been to this track, correct?
No, never been. First time.
So which one? How many is this now, off the top of your head?
Oh God, this got to be 7 or 8 anyway.
Okay.
Different tracks.
All right. Yeah. So what? Other than it being really big, what else do we know about Talladega that you can tell people that aren't NASCAR fans?
Just a 3-4 wide race, the whole race. That's what I'm looking forward to.
And a big wreck normally at the end, right?
Well, I hope that don't happen. I really do. I just let them race, man.
It's the Yellow Wood. What is Yellow Wood? What is that? The Yellow Wood 500.
I got no idea.
That's on Sunday, 1 o'clock Central, 2 o'clock Eastern. Dad's still in the Eastern time, but you're still in the Eastern time zone, correct? I believe by barely you're still in the Eastern time.
No, I'm with you.
You're in the Central time zone now? I thought you were in the Eastern time zone.
No,
all right.
I'm in the same time as you.
1 o'clock on NBC for the race.
I don't know about Talladega, but where I'm sitting here.
Eric, you look that up? I thought he was in he might be in the Central time zone. All right.
Hey, call Sam. He'll be able to tell you.
So, speaking of Sam, reaction overwhelming. How did it go last week? You guys looked like you were best friends. I was watching the show.
That was a lot of fun. I had a good time with him. I can't wait to meet him.
Yes, so he is a very popular man out here now.
Yeah.
How are you doing? Did you able to watch the game last night, or what? Did you avoid it?
Yes. No, I watched it. Jesus, what a game! I mean, Two old men going at it, and they both played great, man.
You know who they used to both play for, right?
Oh, yeah. It just shows you what the jinx is.
Yeah,
right?
it's not a jinx. It's just terrible management. They both played for the Jets. Here's the interesting thing, and Mike Tomlin called out the Browns GM for trading Flacco in the division to the Bengals, which I'm totally with him on that because it's just it's not like Flacco was the third string. He was the starting quarterback that they traded.
You know, I see that article, what he said, and he was right.
Yeah.
You know, that's what are you going to do? That happens. They gave up on him too fast.
Well, you talk about dysfunctional. I don't know what the Browns are doing. Goes with the territory because Flacco can still obviously play. He looked pretty good. And here's the thing. If he can hold it together, they still have a chance. When Burrow comes back, they still can have a chance.
That's a Super Bowl team right there. But they got to get Burrow back.
Well, they can't play defense. I'm not sure if I'm going to go that far. They're a Super Bowl team.
But when you can score 40 a game, go for it. You know?
It's just unbelievable. He still can play.
NFL. That's the new NFL.
Well, that's what they want, and especially with the Ravens being, I don't know if out of it is too strong a word, but they're struggling. The door is still open for Cincinnati to possibly get in there.
Oh yeah. I'd rather see Cincinnati than the Ravens, but that's just me.
Before we get to our picks, we've been talking plenty on it is Central Time Zone, Talladega. There you go. So you are in our time zone. It's funny because I'm going to the Eastern Time Zone here in a couple hours, so we'll trade out. We were talking on the baseball playoffs earlier. The Dodgers are up 3-rip. The other series is 2-2. That the amount of, I don't know if complaining is too strong a word, that the power teams, the rich teams get richer. They can buy it to go to the World Series every year. Baseball's created its own mess. You and I have talked about this for 30-odd years. They haven't done anything about it. I don't know how they fix it either because the players don't want a cap. But it seems like if you spend the most money, you can win the World Series.
Well, that's true. Look at the Mets.
Yep. We haven't won it. Hello.
Look at the Yankees. The Yankees have always spent a ton of money, and although it's been since what, 2009?
2009 was the last time you won. Yep.
I mean, it's not. You still got to play the game. You know what I mean? And hey, I wouldn't count Toronto out of beating the Dodgers. So.
No,
They got an awesome lineup.
Well, and the guy that is struggling the most is Ohtani. He hasn't even hit yet. That's the scary part.
I love it.
Well, he's pitching tonight to see if they can sweep him.
I think he bet on himself to go 0 for 30. So. There you go.
What about the other series? The home team hasn't won a game yet between Seattle and Toronto.
Ain't that something?
Yeah.
I mean, Seattle they played so good in Toronto, and now they're just dogging it.
Well, it's funny because the Blue Jays played amazing against the Yankees, right? And then they had a couple days off. And baseball, you got to play every day, that they got out of their rhythm, and now they got it back at the best time.
Yeah.
Man, they're just tearing the cover off the baseball now. So Game 5 of that is coming up later. Eric, Dad said he didn't get his up. Do you know what he did last week? His picks? How we do? Nobody knows. So we'll just say you did well. How about that? Because enough for Vegas to make some money. So
I forgot to even check it. I really did.
So he'll get it to us before we're done. Let's start. We got another game in London to get us going. The Rams are playing this is actually a good game to be sent overseas. The Rams are 4-2. The Jaguars are 4-2. The Rams are a 3.5-point favorite in this one.
I'm going to go with Jacksonville.
Jacksonville. Get in 3.5. We'll see. Those Jags lost a tough one last week to Seattle. The Carolina Panthers are visiting the winless New York Football Jets. Carolina is a 1.5 favorite here. It looks like Garrett Wilson, by the way, is not going to play for the Jets. Not that it doesn't matter anymore.
Give me Carolina.
Yeah, that's a stunner there. I'm not sure if they're going to win a game this year. It doesn't look good.
A good draft pick, right?
It's like it matters. The Saints are at the Bears. Chicago is a 4.5 point. Chicago's won 3 in a row. Won that game on Monday night at the buzzer.
Yep, they're looking pretty good. I'll go with the Bears.
He's got Chicago over the Saints minus 4.5 in that one.
Yeah, I had Washington in that game last week. I know I did.
Two teams that are one and somebody's got to win. The Dolphins and the Browns. Cleveland is a 2.5-point favorite. Tua was throwing his coach and team under the bus after the game last week.
I'm going to go with Miami.
Miami getting 2.5 there. That should be an ugly game. Patriots are red hot. They are now tied with the Bills for first in the AFC East against the Titans, who just fired their head coach. New England is a 6.5-point road favorite against Tennessee.
Give me New England.
New England on that one. I like their quarterback.
Yeah, I do too. He's playing good.
Drake May's playing pretty. He might be the best of all those quarterbacks that were taken in that draft. Look out now. Here come the Chiefs now. After starting 0-2, they've won 3 of their last 4. Home for the Raiders. They're a 12.5-point favorite at home against Vegas.
Chiefs.
Here we go again with Kansas City. They're turning it on now.
Yeah, they get Rice back.
And they got Rice comes back this week for Kansas City. The biggie here in Minneapolis, Eagles and the Vikings. Vikes off their bye. Looks like Carson Wentz will go. Eagles have lost 2 in a row. Philadelphia is a 2.5-point. They got clobbered by the Giants last week, did Philadelphia.
Carson against the Eagles. Woo, that'll be a good one. I'm going to go with the Vikes.
The Vikings getting the points, plus 2.5. We'll see how Carson does there. To the late games, the Giants are at the Broncos. Denver is a 7.5-point favorite against the G-Men, who've won a couple in a row now.
I'm going to go with the Giants.
Giants getting the points. Okay. Yeah. Taking a couple underdogs this week. Good one here out west. Colts and the Chargers. Colts are 5-1. The Chargers are 4. This is a good game. LA is a 1.5-point favorite at home. Basically a pick'em game here.
They're in LA.
The game's in LA. Yep.
Give me the Colts.
You got the Colts plus 1.5. You and Sam are best friends now, so I imagine you're going to take Indianapolis there anyway.
That's right. Yeah. just for Sam.
Commanders are at the Cowboys. Washington off that is 3-3. The Cowboys are 2-3-1 because of that tie. Washington is a 1.5 favorite.
Washington.
He's got the Commanders minus 1.5 there. Packers are at the Cardinals. Green Bay is a 6.5-point favorite. I don't know if Kyler Murray is playing or not in this one for Arizona. It might be there. Doesn't look like he's going to go. So it might be Jacoby Brissett playing for Arizona again. Packers are a 6.5-point favorite.
Yeah, give me the Packers.
He's got Green Bay.
Milwaukee needs a little uplift for sure.
Sunday Night Football is Atlanta. This looked like a dog game. It's actually not too bad now. Atlanta, after their big win over Buffalo at the 49ers. San Fran is a 2.5-point favorite on Monday Night Football.
Buffalo.
Who you got? It's Atlanta and San Fran.
Oh, jeez, I got that wrong. Give me the Niners.
For San Francisco, minus 2.5.
I had that wrong.
All right, there's a couple. It's okay. There's a couple of Monday night games again. It's a double.
Why are they doing that?
It's a double header this time because the one game was just going to be on ESPN Plus, and they decided to move it to ESPN. This is the last year you're going to have to worry about it. They're going to get away with it. The first game is a great one though. Bucks, Lions. Detroit is a 5.5-point favorite at home over your guy Baker Mayfield in Tampa.
I'm going to go with the Bucks. Give me the point.
Ooh, okay. Tampa plus 5.5. It's hard to pick. How they won that game last week. Baker made an amazing play. Amazing play to win the game last week.
Fourth quarter is his game.
Yeah, that's his time. You're right. Seattle and Houston is the late game. 9 o'clock. That's a 10 o'clock Eastern time start. That is absurdly late to be playing a football game.
I won't make it.
You're not going to make the end of that one. Let's just call it now. Seattle's a 3.5-point favorite at home.
I'll take Seattle.
And he's got the Seahawks minus 3.5. All right, let's do 2 last picks before we get out of here. The Bison minus 34.5. You want to take that action against Indiana State?
Give me the points.
Really? Okay. I hope for your sake you're right. That means it's a closer game than what the experts think.
Yeah.
Are you allowed to bet in Alabama? Do you know that? Are you going to bet on the race on Sunday?
He bet it before I left.
And who'd you put money on?
William Byron.
Okay. Is that your pick then?
He's my man.
All right. Very good.
Hey, before I leave, shout out to my nephew and his wife for hosting me. It's going to be a great time. I know it is.
Awesome. That's fantastic that they're doing
Yeah.
that. Do you know where you're sitting?
He told me right out, just as they come out of pit road.
All right.
Right next.
Well, we're going to look for you on camera then. You got to wear something identifiable, okay?
Yeah, I'll hold up a sign.
What was his record? 9-5 against the spread last week. All right, 10-4 straight up. So there you go. All right, you made some people some money last week. Then there you go.
Yeah.
All right.
We do it again.
Have a great weekend. I'll be in touch when we get to Indiana. Okay.
All right, sounds good. I love you.
I love you
Have
too,
a
man.
good
Have a great time. There he goes, my pops in Tennessee on his way to Alabama for the NASCAR race this weekend in Talladega. We'll take our final break. We come back. We got our Eliminator picks and get you ready for a dynamite sports weekend. Hot Mike will wrap on WDA. Eliminator challenge, so we are down to 3. Matt, Brody, and the Jackman are the 3 left. We've got Matt has taken the Chiefs to win over the Raiders. Brody's on the Lions to beat Tampa. Jackman is going with the Patriots to win over the Titans. So we've been down to 3 here for a couple weeks. We'll see who's still standing. Well, now we got to wait till Tuesday morning since Brody's got a pick on Monday night. But those are our Eliminator picks heading into the final weekend of the well, not even close. We're into the second to last week of the month. So we're looking forward to that. We'll have the results come Monday and Tuesday to see who's still alive for the $100 gift card there. All right, we got about 8 million things to do on what to watch. So let's do it here before we get out of here. All right, What to Watch is brought to us by Northwestern Mutual. We got day 2 of the state soccer tournament out in Mandan. The first day saw the East dominate. All 4 East teams won yesterday. Red River, Cheyenne, South, and Shanley. The consolation games begin at noon. You can see those games exclusively on WDAY Plus. Looks like the sun is finally back out there, which is great. Legacy and Century will start, followed by Jamestown and Minot. The semifinals will begin at 4:30 on WDAY 2. You can see that with Red River and Cheyenne in the first matchup. That'll be followed by South and Shanley in the second game, with the winner moving out of the championship, which again, you'll see that tomorrow on WDAY 2 at 3:30. Again, a reminder tonight, we've got high school football here on WDAY Extra 1 versus 2. Horace and Davies, the winner with the inside track to the EDC championship. We will give you the full highlights of that coming up tonight on First Down Friday. Also, the games going on around the state here. You've got the West Fargo and North game. Keep an eye on West Fargo. They're not out of the mix yet. Williston taking on Bismarck as well. In 2A football, handful of games there. Central and Central Cass match it up. Dickinson and Devils Lake. Remember, Devils Lake is in the second spot in the WDA in 2A football. Also tonight, boy, you got everything going. Minnesota UND, 7 o'clock tonight on Midco. First of 2 matchups from the Ralph. It'll be packed. It's going to be loud. Be a fabulous environment for the Fighting Hawks and the Gophers tonight. Brewers and Dodgers coming up later tonight. Game 4 of the NLCS, 7:30 on TBS. Also, you got Game 5 of the ALCS at 5 o'clock on FS1 between the Blue Jays and the Mariners. See if the Brewers can extend it to a Game 5 or if the Dodgers are heading back to the World Series for the second straight year. Also, we got college football tonight. Nebraska and Minnesota, 7 o'clock on Fox for that one. There's a bunch of people interested in that. There's a bunch of Cheyenne Mustangs in the game as well. Carter Menz will be out there. Cade Pedshot going to be out there as well. Tomorrow, we're on the air bright and early for Bison Game Day, 10 a.m. on WDAY from Terre Haute. We're getting on the plane here in just a couple hours between NDSU and Indiana State. We hit the air at noon on WDAY between the Bison and the Sycamores. Kyle Emanuel, Sam Getzinger, and myself on the call of that. Here are the other games. Again, remember that Jacks game actually has been moved to an early kickoff because of weather. Youngstown, Illinois State will be fun, as will UND and SIU coming up on ESPN Plus tomorrow. Here are the other NFL games coming up across the weekend. Best game of the weekend, probably that Colts-Chargers game going on late window on CBS. Also going on this weekend, we got the Vikes coming up against the Eagles at noon on Fox. Tennessee, Alabama tomorrow night on WDAY should be a heck of a lot of fun. And then Game 6, Mariners-Blue Jays. One of those teams could go to the World Series that night. Our thanks to Oliver Lucht, to Brad Schlossman, of course, to my dad. If you missed any of the show, you can podcast it later today at Inforum.com. You can watch a full replay on WDAY+. Have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy all the sports. We'll see you back here on Monday to recap it all.